Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Project Oathmark / Dragon Rampant. And there's going to be 3 parts to this one. The first one, I'm going to look at Oathmark, the rulebook. And the second part, I'm going to look at Dragon Rampant. And then the third part, I'm going to do a little compare and contrast. Now, these are all my personal opinions and personal views. I'm going to look through the books, so you're going to get to see a little bit of the inside if you haven't already. I'm going to go talk about a few of the rules, but not the whole thing. That's for other videos. But here we go. Let's start off with Oathmark. Joseph McCullough wrote Oathmark. We know him from Frostgrave and Rangers of Shadowdeep, so he's a household name at this point. This joint effort between Joseph and Osprey, they have gotten together to do some great things, and I think they are still considered indie games and an indie game company, but I think their popularity has continued to grow over the last few years. And Oathmark is the newest one, and let's take a look at it. So, about 192-ish pages, and this is all the fluff you're going to get. Unlike some books with some settings, you get no fluff here other than this one little snippet about the marches and how it's an age lost to time, and the rest is up to you and your opponent. So there's a lot of storytelling in this game. A lot of people like this because of how open it is, and when we get to kingdom building, that'll be really important on how open everything is and how much you are able to contribute to the storyline. And there are going to be countless histories in the marches because everyone's going to come to it with some different ideas. Some people will come with a very Tolkien-esque background. Some will come from a Games Workshop kind of background, and it's going to be a nice mix of what comes up. In this book, you're going to see lots of beautiful artwork. You're going to see lots of great pictures of painted minis, and it's going to look awesome. So we start off with, you can play this game apparently with as little as 30 figures, and that might just be a nice advertisement for the Oathmark North Star boxed set of figures, but apparently you can do it. You're probably not going to get a really good game until you have a couple hundred figures, but it's nice that you can even just try the game with just a few units. I like that, and small units. You're not going to get the full game, but it'll be fine. We'll talk again about base size in a sec, but there is a note here that says if your army is not based on the standard 25 square bases for your infantry, no problem. You can still play with rounds or 20mm squares or what have you. Just try to make it so that if you use a movement tray, that it's about 125mm wide, so that it kind of matches. And even Joseph on Facebook has said multiple times, if you and your opponent agree, and if they match as close as possible, you should be fine. A few millimeters here or there are not going to hurt anybody, and that is awesome. That also means you can use whatever figures you have at hand as well. So I have a mix of figures, not just Oathmark stuff, but I do have some Oathmark things. So it's nice that you can come to this game with a variety. The dice. Now, one of the things that turned me off initially for this game was that you only have 5 d10s, maximum 5 dice. There are some modifiers to change the target number that you're looking for, but you're only going to be rolling at most 5 dice. Now, I wasn't really pleased with that number, especially coming from a bit of a Warhammer fantasy background where bucket loads of dice and you're rolling all those d6s. Even Dragon Rampant, you're rolling either 6 or 12 dice. And there's something about rolling a bunch of dice, but there's something really nice about only rolling 5 dice and having all the modifiers just really work nicely. And from what I've seen in this game, and I think that the 5 dice max with the modifiers, it actually works out real nice. So well done on that one, Joseph. So we're going to be using this stat line shortly. This is a basic human soldier stat line, and you'll see that they've got an activation stat, movement, fight, shoot, defense, combat dice, health, point value, any special rules, base size, and then equipment. Now, equipment, what's great is that a hand weapon could be a sword, a mace, an axe. There's a lot of streamlining in this game, and I think that makes it very easy to build and to play, and you're not going to get hung up on the exact type of weapon that a figure has. You might, because that might be the kind of player you are, hey, that's fine. For me, I like that there are a bunch of different types of units in the army list, and whatever you can field with your models, you can field. And if you're building towards it, hey, you can choose from here and there. So yeah, basic stat line. We'll come back to that very shortly. Oh, and generally you don't change the stat lines. There are some character models that you can add to your units, but generally there's not a lot of change, which is cool. Here's more on the base sizing. So a standard infantry or infantry type figure would be on a 25 by 25 millimeter base, and if it's in a unit, it's probably going to have between 5 and 20 models. Cavalry, you're going to have 1 to 10, but you're probably going to start off with 5 because you want that rank, and they're on 25 by 50 millimeter rectangles. Larger creatures that are like monsters and stuff will be on 50 by 50 squares, and then the big ones are on 50 by 100. And that this diagram shows you that in the middle front rank of your infantry, you're going to have an officer, and the officer is the one model where you're going to be doing a lot of measuring from, line of sight. When you pivot, it's going to be around that model. So that model is important. You can denote it by a banner or someone with their sword up in the air or a really cool looking guy. These are not characters unless you actually replace it with a character, but generally these are just some kind of figure that's in the front. It actually doesn't even have to be a special model. It's just that one model is where you're measuring all your line of sight and stuff from. Okay, so you've got some initiative rolls, and look at that, very nice. I think that's on the box of the light dwarf infantry. If when you're rolling your initiative, you roll doubles, there's going to be a chart of special events that might happen. If both roll doubles, you both get a special event. But if all the dice you roll, because you're going to roll 2 dice for your initiative, if all 4 dice are the exact same, there's a catastrophic event, which could be dragons fighting over your right on your battlefield. That's awesome. Rare, but it could happen. Now, when it's your turn, you will activate one of your units. When you activate one of your units, it could take up to 2 actions if you're successful. So we're going to look at the humans again. Their activation stat is a 5. So you're going to roll 2 d10, and if at least one of those is a 5 or higher, they get to fully activate. If none of them are higher, they can do a simple action. So they still get to do something. Your turn's not over. Their turn's not over. They just get to do something simple like move, but not into combat. They can shoot, or they can do some kind of little maneuver. That's it. But if they get their activation because they rolled the 5 or higher, then they can do 2 actions. Now, one of the things that you can do is move, and you're going to move in a straight line up to your movement. In this case, it's 6 inches. You're not turning, you're not pivoting, you're not doing anything. You are just moving in a straight line. If you would like to wheel or pivot or turn right around, you're going to have to do a maneuver, which is its own action. If you decide to move, you can move once for your full, and then a second time up to half. So a human soldier unit could move 9 inches in a turn if they get to fully activate. They could also move sideways or backwards half of their movement. So you could move backwards twice. The first time would be 3 inches back, and the second time would be 1.5 inches back. Or you could move forward 6 inches and then to the side 1.5 inches. So that's those are possibilities for movement. So you can move, you can maneuver, and you could also shoot. And again, even as a simple action, if you fail your activation, you can still shoot. It's not going to be as great, but you want to shoot sometimes, and but it is one of your possible actions. If you do fully activate and you move into contact with another unit, you are in combat. And technically, you have charge. So if you have a charge special rule, you get a little bonus. If you don't, you're still in combat. So once you are in combat, you are going to roll your probably 5 dice if you have at least 5 infantry in your unit. If you have another unit that has, or like say a monster or a cavalry that has 2 combat dice, you're actually going to be rolling still maximum of 5. So say you have three creatures that each roll 3 dice. you are still going to roll 5 dice. But if you lose one of your creatures, 2 of them are still going to technically supposed to roll 6, so you still have your 5 dice. You're not going to be losing any dice power. But if you have, say, 1 combat die human soldiers and you get down to 4 soldiers, you're only rolling 4 dice. Each one is going to contribute their combat dice up to the maximum of 5. Your target number, okay, so let's imagine that a human soldier is fighting another human soldier. These are units, right? So your target number is your opponent's defense minus your fight. So in this case, a human soldier fighting another human soldier is looking for 7s on their d10. So they're going to be rolling, well, if there's 5 of them, they're going to be rolling 5 dice looking for 7. But here comes the modifiers. So if there are extra ranks in the unit, so say they are 2 units of 20 soldiers, it's going to be -1 for each full rank after the first. So that'll be 3 extra ranks in a unit of 20 because it's 5, 10, 15, 20. And so they're going to be rolling 5 dice looking for now not 7s, but looking for 4s. There are other modifiers that if your unit is disordered, if you're fighting against someone in their flank or rear, or it's your rear, if the other unit has activated this turn. So there are just a few modifiers that are pretty intuitive. They make sense, and they're not too difficult. So let's say these 2 units are fighting against each other. They're now looking for 4s. They're going to roll their 5 dice. And depending on, oh, there's another full page. That's the human infantry box. Depending on what numbers they get, anything higher than to the target number or higher is going to be a hit. However, if the dice roll is 5 more than the target number, then that's going to count as 2 hits. So in this case, any roll of 9 or 10 will actually be 2 hits for these humans fighting these humans. It is possible even for a target number to be, say, 0, and if you roll a 10 when your target number is 0, it's actually going to count as 3 hits. So that is a possibility. Every hit is going to be a casualty. It's either a figure removed or a damage on a multi-health point unit. So humans only have 1 health, but monsters might have 2 or 3. And so 1 hit is 1 damage. No defense rolls. It's all built in. It's all quick and easy. Again, very cool. Even 5 dice, a few modifiers, roll, done. I like it. If you take any casualties, you have to make a morale test, and your morale test is against your activation number again, minus any casualties that you've taken. And then whoever inflicted the most casualties will be able to push the opposing unit 1 or 6 inches back. Now this could help you maneuver to do another attack with another unit, or you could push a unit into one of their own friendly units, which pushes that unit back. So there are there's some thinking about what you would want to do. If it's a tie in number of casualties, both units are moved backwards 1 inch. And here's an example, but we used humans instead of the human and dwarf that they did. If the target number is actually higher than 10, like say a unit of humans, 5 humans are attacking a giant. The giant's defense is 13 and the human's fight is 2, so they are only looking for they're looking for an 11. Can't get that on a d10. But what you can do is you'll have to roll 10s, and any 10s you roll, you get to re-roll, and if you get an 8 or higher, it counts as a hit. So it is possible for even the meekest little halfling to wound a giant. Is it likely? It's not very likely, but it is possible, and that's what's important. Shooting attacks is very similar. You have to shoot the closest unit that's in line of sight and range of your weapon. You're going to roll, determine your combat dice in the same way, 1 per figure. And then there are some modifiers. There's cover, there's ranks again, so having a big archer unit is actually helpful. You roll your dice and you determine your hits in the exact same way as melee combat. You remove casualties as usual, and then you do a morale test. And there's an example. Okay, so yeah, there's the morale. Any result of 10 is an automatic success, no matter what your target number was. So that's cool. All right. Disordered. If you become disordered, you're going to have a -1 to all of your activation rolls, a +1 to your target numbers when you are attacking or shooting, and a -1 to all of your morale tests. If you're disordered and you fail another morale test, you are broken. You're off the table. So even a large unit that has happened to fail its morale test 2 times before rallying, it is taken off the table. Now, to rally, all you have to do is succeed at an activation test. It is at -1, but if you succeed, you are rallied and you are safe for the time being. Whether you rally or if you fail, you can take a simple action. Okay. Let's see. So, ending the game, depending on the scenario, although if one army is wiped out, then they're gone. So there are some advanced rules. I haven't really looked too much into characters, but characters could be commanders, they could be champions, they could be spellcasters. Commanders have some cool rules about helping units, their own unit and units nearby. They get 3 dice on their activation rolls, or they can try to activate nearby units depending on their level. So they might be command 1 or command 2, so they can attempt to activate 1 or 2 nearby units. If they fail, they still get a simple action, but that's their activation for the turn. But it lets you do some kind of like alpha strike. Champions are big fighters that you'll replace your unit officer with, and they give you an extra die, which has some special abilities. And then you've got spellcasters who can, of course, cast spells. And there are a list of spells that each race can use, and then there's some general spells. There's also monsters, artillery, magic items. I haven't really looked at the magic items, but you can outfit your characters with magic items, artillery, like catapults and ballistae and stuff like that. Could be cool. Monsters, I do have a few in my army so far, but they have some special rules, like they can't be commanded, and some of them count as units of 1, stuff like that. So so I was talking about this, it's actually an optional rule. The strange events table is when you roll doubles. Catastrophic events, if you both roll the exact same doubles. I want to see that happen. I want one game for there to be a catastrophic event. Now, here's where most people get excited about this game, and it's building an army. Unlike most other games, you can have multiple races within your army. So you could have humans, orcs, goblins, elves, and dwarves all in the same army. The way that works is because you're going to use a kingdom sheet that looks kind of like this when you're building your kingdom. It could look different if you make it look different, but you've got your capital, and your capital has to be one of those races. So say I want it to be a human kingdom. I would have a human city, and that lets me get the human king, human spellcasters, a bunch of human units. In this second ring here, or I guess the first ring outside here, there are 2 spaces for 2 different types of terrain, and I can either do a level 2 human terrain or a level 1 from someone else. So I could have iron mines, barrens, and plains, or timber mills for of humans, and these are going to let me have rangers or cavalry or catapults, stuff like that. Or I could have a dwarf city or an elf city or an orc and goblin city. In my third section here, there are 3 terrains, and I can again either have a level 3 human, so that'll let me get ogres or giants, or I can use say a level 2 dwarf terrain to get dwarf line breakers, or I could get elf mounted rangers or elf rangers. So that's cool. And then in this 4th ring, I can have anybody, and it can be any terrain from any of the lists, and because it's level 4 and anything lower than level 4 is available. So if I was a human kingdom but I wanted some giant spiders, I would have to, in my 4th level, I would have to have some dark forests, which are an elf terrain. Say I also wanted some goblin wolf riders, I would need some dark hills, and because that's a level 2, I could do it either in my level 3 or my level 4. This 5th level out here, this ring is for the campaign and the border clashes, so they're not really part of your territory in terms of kingdom building, but they are part of the campaign. Now, this section of the book is all about the different units, and you're going to see all those stats. and a little write-up about each type of unit, what they might be like, and then it'll tell you their equipment and then all of their stats. And then all of these special rules will be explained in a little bit in the book. So it goes through these 4 major races and then some monsters. And again, very cool artwork. I think this is the box from the Goblin Cavalry, the Wolf Riders. And these are some unaligned big creatures, so if you want a dragon, if you want some gargoyles, okay? And then here's the other part that people, of course, are going to like. It's the campaign. And very briefly, you're going to use your kingdom map that you've done, and then you're going to roll on this table to see what kind of battle you're going to fight. Is it going to be the attacker trying to occupy one of the defenders' areas? Are they going to try to take something back? Are they going to try to, is it a punitive expedition? And whoever wins, they can choose one of their opponent, one region in their opponent's kingdom, and it counts as occupied for the next campaign turn. If something is occupied, it just means that units that you I guess purchased or recruited from that terrain will be at a +1 to their activation stat. That's it. You can still have your, in this case it says if you have your ogres, you can still have your ogres, but they'll be at a +1 if they're +1 to their activation if their territory is occupied. Then you're going to select a scenario. There are 5 basic scenarios in here, and I'll talk about these in a future video. I think there's some heavy dwarves. And these are the scenarios. They're there. Variety. And then you've got your special abilities. And now all the units have their special ability listed. You generally can't add a special ability to a unit. They're there. So like spearmen, say they have brace. So if they're being charged by a unit that has a charge ability, the chargers lose one of their charge levels. So a little bit of interaction between them, but there's not a lot. There's only a few pages of them, and they make sense. Ooh, I wonder if this is going to be the like dwarf rangers and stuff. Cool, I like that one. All right. Anyway, then you've got some spells, and there are going to be spells from the different races and the general ones. Ooh, creepy. And then you've got some magic items. I haven't really looked at these yet, but for a number of points, you can get some kind of cool magical weapon. I love it. And then you've got your reference for everything, including your kingdom sheet and then your army roster. And that is it. That's Oathmark. Very interesting rulebook. I used to play Warhammer Fantasy, and saying goodbye to that was sad. And I know you can still play 9th edition and all that stuff, but that went away. This is it's very exciting to have a new rule book with new models, and it's gaining popularity. I think more and more people are hearing about it and checking it out, and I think the streamlined gaming and the speed and the fun that you can have with this game is making it even more popular. So that's my look at Oathmark. Next I will look at Dragon Rampant, and then I'll take a look at both of them and kind of compare and contrast. Not really to convince you of either one. I'd say get both, just like me. Build your army so that you can do both. But anyway, that is Oathmark, Battles of Lost Age by Joseph McCullough and Osprey Games. Thanks for watching, and let's keep going with this great project. Thanks. See ya.